Sheldon Cooper's Nobel Prize speech was written almost 30 years earlier. Not by Sheldon, not by Amy, by Missy. In a dark bedroom in Medford, while Sheldon was terrified of college, his supposedly less intelligent twin gave him the emotional formula he would eventually use on the biggest stage of his life. Then she called him a dumbass. But here's the part people keep getting wrong. Sheldon did not repeat Missy's exact sentence in Stockholm. He did something much bigger. He repeated the lesson hiding underneath it. The lesson that fear doesn't mean stop. The lesson that courage doesn't mean standing alone. The lesson that your greatest achievement might not belong only to you. And once you see where Sheldon learned that, his Nobel speech stops being a beautiful ending. It becomes a debt finally being paid. More than 20 years late, jump to The Big Bang Theory, Season 12, Episode 24, The Stockholm Syndrome. Sheldon is holding the prize he has wanted since childhood, the Nobel Prize in Physics, the thing he once treated like proof that he was more important than everybody who had ever underestimated him. He even prepared a 90-minute acceptance speech. 90 minutes. Pages dedicated to his childhood, his enemies, his achievements, and all the people he expected to be drowning in regret when he finally won. Classic Sheldon. But hours before the ceremony, the people who dragged him to that moment are ready to abandon him. Leonard has just revealed that Penny is pregnant. Sheldon's response isn't happiness, it's relief that pregnancy isn't contagious. Howard and Bernadette are terrified about leaving their children at home. Sheldon dismisses them because their crisis is interfering with his special day. One by one, the people who tolerated him for 12 years decide they've had enough. Then Amy says the one thing Sheldon cannot calculate his way around. She tells him they are leaving because he broke their hearts. Sheldon says he didn't mean to. Amy fires back that his lack of intention is the only reason people tolerate him. Then Sheldon asks whether that includes her. Sometimes, yeah. No joke saves him, no scientific correction, no bazinga. Just Sheldon standing in a hotel room, realizing the greatest day of his life may end with him completely alone. Wait, alone? Where have we heard that before? Go backward to Young Sheldon, Season 4, Episode 1, Graduation. Sheldon is supposed to be celebrating. He has finished high school at 11 years old. College is waiting.
Everyone expects him to march forward, because that's what geniuses do. But Sheldon cracks. During the filmed interview about his graduation, he admits he doesn't think he can handle college. His classes are changing. His routine is disappearing. Tam has found other people to eat lunch with.
Sheldon can't even find his safety goggles without panicking. George hears his son say he might remain in high school and reacts with disbelief. Mary tells Sheldon there's no pressure, but neither parent identifies what is actually happening. Missy does. She walks into Sheldon's room and tells him she understands why he doesn't want to go. Sheldon immediately dismisses her. Of course he does. Missy isn't the genius. She hasn't studied psychology. She doesn't have a degree. She's just the sister everybody assumes understands less. Then she describes his fear perfectly. Everything is going to change. It will be difficult. He will miss the way life used to be. Sheldon asks how she knows. Missy says she feels it too. Then Sheldon asks the question nobody else could answer. What are they supposed to do? Missy says, I guess be scared and do it anyway. Sheldon pauses. Missy has just accomplished something Mary, George, and every professor in Sheldon's life failed to do. She reached him without arguing with his fear. She didn't tell him he was being ridiculous. She didn't bury him beneath reassurance. She stood beside him inside it. Then, when Sheldon says it's comforting to know she feels the same way, Missy destroys the sentimental moment with, "That's why I said it, dumbass." Funny, but remove the comedy framing. A frightened 11-year-old boy has just admitted he cannot face his future. His twin sister reveals that she's frightened too, then gives him permission to move forward without pretending the fear has disappeared. That isn't stupidity. That is emotional intelligence Sheldon cannot measure. And this is where the glass child pattern enters the story. A glass child is a sibling whose needs become easier to overlook because another child requires so much attention and support. It isn't an official diagnosis, and the show never gives Sheldon a diagnosis. But Missy is written inside that pattern again and again. People don't fail to see her because she is invisible. They see straight through her while looking at Sheldon. Young Sheldon proved this 2 seasons before graduation. Season 2, Episode 5, a research study and Czechoslovakian wedding pastries. Sheldon and Missy participate in a university study involving twins. Everybody expects Sheldon to dominate because intelligence, in the Cooper household, means solving equations. Then the researchers test something Sheldon cannot do. They show the twins human faces and emotional situations. Sheldon struggles. Missy sees everything. The researcher calls her perceptive. She explains that Missy notices things other people miss. Then she asks how Missy became so good at reading people. Missy's answer should have stopped the episode cold. She explains that George and Georgie have football. Mary and Meemaw spend their time fussing over Sheldon. Everybody has a team. Except Missy. The researcher asks who is on her team. Missy says, "Nope, it's just me." That line isn't separate from her emotional intelligence. It created it. Missy learned to monitor everybody else because nobody was monitoring her. She learned to read a room because her place inside that room was never guaranteed. She became emotionally self-sufficient because Sheldon's problems always arrived louder than hers. That is the glass child pattern. The ignored sibling becomes the family's best observer because observation is how they survive being overlooked. Now return to graduation, because the writers practically confess what they're doing. A reporter arrives to interview the family about Sheldon finishing high school. Missy interrupts. She says she is graduating too. The reporter looks surprised and asks whether she is also graduating from high school. Missy says elementary school. The reporter responds with one dead little word. Oh. Then the attention snaps right back to Sheldon. Strip away the joke. 2 twins are graduating. One graduation becomes a news story. The other becomes background noise. Missy doesn't throw a tantrum. She doesn't demand the camera. She tries to sing the song her class will perform, squeezing her own achievement into the few seconds nobody has reserved for her. That's the glass child in one brutal scene. Sheldon's milestone becomes a family event. Missy has to announce that hers exists. But then Sheldon does something nobody expects. He stands at the graduation podium and admits he is uncomfortable speaking before crowds. He explains that one technique for controlling stage fright is focusing on a single person. He looks toward his family. Not at Mary, not at George. Missy, this is for you. Then he repeats her message. It's okay to be scared. We just have to do it anyway. But watch what Sheldon adds. He tells the other graduates that if they are frightened of the future, they should know they are not alone. Not alone. Remember those words. Because Sheldon isn't merely quoting Missy. He is turning private fear into public connection. For the first time, one of his achievements becomes a platform for acknowledging the person who helped him reach it. He tells the crowd to be as brave as his twin sister. Then, because Sheldon cannot survive too much emotional exposure, he immediately insults her. He jokes that he skipped middle school and will offer advice only if she manages to reach high school. Everyone gets permission to laugh. Sheldon gets to hide behind superiority again. But the truth has already escaped. The smartest person on that stage just told the entire school that Missy was the brave one. Subscribe to Cooper Untold, because this family buried more truth inside throwaway jokes than most dramas manage across an entire series. Now here's where this gets uncomfortable. The Nobel Prize wasn't always connected to friendship for Sheldon. In Young Sheldon, Season 2, Episode 22, A Swedish Science Thing and the Equation for Toast, Sheldon organizes a garage listening party for the Nobel Prize announcement. He waits. Nobody comes. The chairs remain empty while Sheldon listens alone to strangers receive the award he dreams about winning. Adult Sheldon compares quarks, which remain bonded, with a neutrino moving through the universe alone. He says he believed he was destined to be alone forever. Then the episode cuts to younger versions of Leonard, Penny, Howard, Raj, Bernadette, and Amy. People Sheldon hasn't met yet. Adult Sheldon says he was wrong. That scene looked like foreshadowing when it aired. But after graduation, it becomes something else. Missy's lesson sits between those 2 Nobel moments. First, Sheldon thinks greatness means being alone in a garage. Then Missy tells him fear is survivable because somebody else feels it too. Finally, he stands in Stockholm and recognizes that the Nobel never belonged to him alone. That isn't coincidence. That is the emotional spine of Sheldon Cooper's entire life. But the sequel makes the story uglier before it makes it beautiful. The Big Bang Theory, Season 1, Episode 15, The Pork Chop Indeterminacy. Adult Missy visits Pasadena to deliver documents involving George's estate. Sheldon barely welcomes her. While Leonard, Howard, and Raj are fascinated by Missy, Sheldon treats her like an inconvenience. He corrects her jokes, dismisses her presence, and eventually lets Leonard convince him to think about his own sister's genetic integrity as though her life were another scientific resource he needed to supervise. That's the contradiction. Young Sheldon shows Missy entering her brother's bedroom, naming the fear he cannot name, and giving him the courage to graduate. The Big Bang Theory shows the adult Sheldon acting as though she has almost nothing to teach him. But he remembered. Not consciously enough to become a consistently better brother. Not clearly enough to thank her every time he should have. But somewhere inside him, the lesson survived. Now watch the Nobel ceremony again. Sheldon walks to the microphone with his enormous, self-centered speech. Just like graduation, public speaking terrifies him in a way his arrogance normally hides. Just like graduation, he searches the audience. Just like graduation, he sees the people who made movement possible. Then he puts his prepared speech aside. He says, "This honor doesn't just belong to me." He begins with his mother, father, Meemaw, brother and sister. Missy is not shown sitting in Stockholm. The camera remains on the friends who traveled with him, but she is inside the sentence. Then Sheldon admits he had been living under the misapprehension that his accomplishments were his alone. That is the adult version of the terrified boy in Medford. The boy believed he had to stop being scared before he could move forward. The man believed he had to be solely responsible before an achievement could truly belong to him. Missy destroyed the first lie. His friends destroyed the second. Both lessons end in the same place. You do it anyway, but you don't do it alone. And that's why the Nobel speech isn't really Sheldon becoming a different person. It's Sheldon finally returning to the person he briefly became at graduation. The boy who admitted fear. The brother who focused on one face. The genius who used his moment to make somebody else visible. At graduation, that person was Missy. At the Nobel ceremony, it was Leonard, Penny, Howard, Bernadette, Raj, and Amy. The names changed. The emotional structure did not. Sheldon throws away the speech designed to prove everybody wrong. He asks his friends to stand. He apologizes for failing them. He tells them that, in his way, he loves them. He finally understands what Missy understood before either of them had reached middle school. Courage isn't walking onto the stage without fear. Courage is admitting whose voice followed you there. Drop the scene where you first realized Missy understood people better than Sheldon ever did, because Sheldon